I spent all that money on that little clamp to mount my camera with to get it up like where I want it. Yeah, I realized that I got like 20 wood clamps in here, and that new little secondary clamp that I bought, it works great. Now, that's a little redneck, but it holds my camera right behind my monitor, so it looks like I'm looking at the crowd actually. So
I gotta go grab a new battery real quick for my microphone, or is it's gonna die. So I'll be right back.
sure. Well, hello everybody. That was quick. 14 folks in here. We're just getting started. I got to get the comments turned on. Looks like we've got it turned off there. There we go. Sorry about that. I got the ticker back up now. Hello, Michael, Brian, Dave, Tim, Mark. It's rainy here in Alabama, so if the tin roof, I don't know if y'all can hear it. I think I've got the filter turned on to where maybe you can't, but it's raining real bad here. So, well, I'm using the little mic that goes with my. I'm still using the same little set, but I'm just using the remote part instead of the little fuzzy one. I found that they actually work better inside the shop. It rained every day this week.
I don't want to hear about your rain.
You're just mad because it's not snow. You just want everybody to have snow.
No, I'm a little freaked out because it's rained twice here in Minnesota in January, and that's not a good thing.
Well, that's because we sent you some rain after you sent all that cold air down here.
You realize it just freezes to everything up here and creates havoc. I'd rather have it in snow.
Yeah. Thunder Bay, Ontario. Hello. Iowa. Now you got me paranoid. My mic's going to die, so give me a second while I grab my little battery pack. Because I looked over and I'm like, you know what? Mine could probably use a little charge too. Because I used it today when I was doing that camper video, and I just wore the thing all day long and never charged it. So I was like, you know what? Or my receiver's what I'm worried most about. I've got 2 mics, so I can swap that out.
Yeah, well, you hit the live button and my camera started flashing red at me like the microphone was dying. So I was like, oh, better go swap that.
Well, my little GoPro's died. It ain't wanting to come on. So I don't know if I got a bad battery or what. Cold in Minnesota, and will gladly have it warm enough to rain. See, he's in Minnesota. He likes rain, Steve.
Yeah, but I hear it, but it can't soak in. It freezes to things. Branches start falling off trees. Yeah. No. Although we just passed the 10 weeks of the darkest days of winter, so now start getting lighter. Hopefully,
somebody said they were watching the camper. Yeah, Jack said he was watching the camper video. It's a small camper, but my buddy actually, I think he done pretty good. I was a little when he first pulled up with that thing, I was like, oh my gosh, what has he done? But it had good bones. Ain't that what they call it on those house when you're fixing houses or whatever? Good bones.
Yep.
Well, it's not my pop-up camper, but my wife thought it was when he was bringing it by. And guys, the look on her face, because we have fought for like 3 or 4 years over me wanting a camper and her not thinking I have time for one because she says I never take off work, which the fact that I have to get cashed out on vacation every year is probably a clue that I probably won't use one. But I've always wanted one. Yeah, it was funny. But when he pulled up, she's like, what is Eric doing? I was like, he's dropping my camper off. But anyway, it was fun. But how is everybody? 42 folks in here. It's been 4 minutes and 48 seconds of me and Steve just shooting the breeze over here. So anybody's got any questions, guys, you can go ahead and throw them in here. I do have some news for some of y'all. Some of you probably aren't worried about it. But I do have some news for some of you. Um, so let me get to that. And I'm still working on it. It's a work in progress, but many of you asked for it, so here it is. It's still a work in progress, though. There you go.
Mm.
We're doing that liner right now. Well, now if it was gift to you, then that's a pretty good idea. But for those of you that didn't see it, and I guess Steve, you or I, one could throw it up. Oh, by the way, Steve got promoted, guys. Uh, for the past 7 or 8 lives, Steve has not had control over text messages and stuff, or the messages and stuff. But we got that sorted out, so now Steve can do stuff. But I put the link in the comments, and uh, well, I could probably approve them now, but y'all gonna probably get me here. Uh, but yeah, there you go. There you go. There you go. I just approve all. So I got us a little group started, and the whole purpose of it was I get a lot of photos. I got several today from people of projects that you do and things that I've inspired or Steve's inspired. And it was one of those things that, you can't really go to putting it like on my page. I have a Facebook page, but it won't let other people post to it. And Steve's in the same boat, and we use them for our business. And so we thought that maybe it would be better if like you guys had a place that y'all could come together and y'all could share, things, and we can come in there and comment and talk and just, I got a guy sent me a mirror and some other stuff that he's done based on videos that I done, and some people have done that with Steve's videos, and that way y'all can share, spread the word. You can invite people in, and like I said, we are going to need some people to help manage it though, because me and Steve got plenty going on, and I don't want to let it get out of hand because there's a lot of these Facebook groups that, to me, they get out of hand with spam bots and that kind of stuff. So if you're interested, I'm going to try to get this thing set up. It's still a work in progress, so y'all don't go hating on me just yet. And I don't. I keep seeing people. Are you approving them too, Steve? Because I keep seeing it. Somebody needs approval, and I go in here. It doesn't show anybody needing approval. But if I don't get it done, wait a minute. Here we go. There we go. There we go. I got them. I'm just doing batches. So if I let a bot in, y'all let me know, or I can delete them. But I'm gonna put some questions on there so that y'all can get in. Maybe some of the guys that's been with us for a while, Jack, some of you others, if you're interested, if you want to be a moderator or to help me and Steve out with such things as approving people to get into the group and kicking them out when they get in there causing trouble, then message me or just put a post in there and let us know, and we'll do that. But yeah, but I thought that might be something cool, because I do like seeing y'all stuff. And guys, I get so many messages, sometimes it's hard to find them. I lose a lot of stuff, and I'm pretty sure Steve does too. So, but I'm gonna let you talk for a minute, Steve, while I deal with this page stuff that's popping up now.
I think you're the only admin in there right now, so that's all
Oh,
on
am I?
you.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I just created this literally like 30 minutes ago. So let me see here. Oh, yeah, it's got some members now. I can probably assign some
Yep.
folks. But yeah.
Yep.
Oh, here comes. Let's see. There he is right there. Look. There you go. Fix that. Now you can help.
Oh no, more work.
Yeah, but like I said, guys, we're not looking to get into a whole lot more work. So, any volunteers, make it known. And like I said, we want everybody to be respectful. We want to keep it clean because not everybody in here wants to hear other people's language, and we want to be able to share without a whole bunch of robots and stuff like that just spamming the I guess you would call it what, message board, I guess. But yeah, I think I've got everybody. But anyway, questions, comments, concerns. That's all the announcement that I have. Unless Steve has something.
No, it's It's winter up here. I'm hibernating. I actually
Guys,
went out into
Steve
my
needs a
workshop
hug.
today. I went out into my backyard workshop, my garage. That's a workshop, and because the temperatures are hovering around. Well, right now my Windows taskbar just says very cold weather, but it's around zero. We've got the wind chills, which drive it down even lower. But my I built the garage about 14 years ago with the idea that I have a workbench in there and such. But now I have a lot of tools out there, and one of them being my CO2 laser. So it tends to retain its heat pretty well, but when it gets colder like this, I do got to check on it. And I have an electric heater out there to keep it running, but I like to check on it a bit. But
Mm.
that's other than that, I've just been kind of doing some design work today and testing on some things that hopefully will come out in a couple videos this week. But,
Yeah.
so see, we got
What
a
is it?
question there.
Yeah, somebody's asking about that new machine. I guess they're talking about the one that I'm lovingly calling the crawler, which it's okay. Oh, I think what I saw on AliExpress, it said $1,000. I don't know if that's accurate or not. I kind of got in trouble with that video because they had mentioned sending me that thing back in December, and when they sent it, uh, I had no idea they were sending it. It showed up. I emailed them and asked them if it was ready to be, reviewed, and they didn't respond for 2 days. So I dropped a video, and then 2 days later they responded and was like, "Hey, hold up on the video." So there may be still being some adjustments on the pricing, and that may be my bad, but they didn't. They should have probably sent me a shipping notification and their request for how to handle doing the video, but they didn't. So I dropped it. But as soon as uh, as soon as they send me some more stuff, I did put another link in there that they asked me to add. If they send me anything else, I'll let you know, guys. But I mean, I think it's relatively new. Uh, the guy that originally emailed me, the way he talked was it hadn't been released. But then when I checked, when I received it, it was on AliExpress. But I used it today on the camper engrave, and it was. I was a little worried I was going to have to start over on my threshold, but it worked out. Yeah, that was my stance, and that's what I kindly told the guy when he kind of got a little miffed about me doing the video. Is I told him that, you know, that probably should have been sent to me with a tracking notification, so that because if I hadn't have got it, if Porch Pirates had got it, which the dogs handled that for me, but if a Porch Pirate had got it, I'd have never known the thing was even coming. But yeah, it says $1,100. Yeah, and keep in mind, guys, that's a specialized. I think that's a specialized tool. It done well today, but it's still early for me to call it just yet. So
Yeah, typically with those, they're more antsy to get it done sooner than later than have you wait. But generally, they'll be upfront saying, "Hey, this is a pre-release. We want you to drop it between these dates if there's a requirement." If they
yeah.
didn't include that information weeks in advance, when they first contacted you, that's kind of on them.
Oh yeah, because it was almost 2 months before I got the thing. So yeah, normally what I'll get is an email saying, "Would you like to try it?" And then the next email will be a shipping notification, and this is the links we would like for you to use. These are some things we think you would be interested in, and oh, by the way, don't release it until this date. That's normally what you get, and they just want you to try it out leading up to that. But these guys were kind of like AFK for a little while, and it messed me up. Uh, yeah, I appreciate you. Somebody said the videos help. I don't know if you've seen that one or not. I'm trying to get some of these people out of the group or some of these people into the group that's requesting. Woo. But everything's blowing up real fast over here. Number of requests, none. But we're good right now. Uh, yeah. Have you ever tried one of the laser pecker engravers, Steve?
No, I have not. I've seen them and kind of looked at some of the information on them, but I don't know. I guess the kind of the crawling aspect of them, to me, I was kind of like, well, that's interesting, but I don't, especially on those, because I believe someone else mentioned it. They're a little smaller working area. I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
The videos I've seen, they
I
like
think it's got a niche
fit in your
use.
hand. So yeah. Yeah, and that's like this one. I mean, now don't get me wrong. I've already created a diagram in my head of how I can improve upon its accuracy, but it's not going to replace my enclosed machines. But like today, when I did that, 30-inch piece of wood that wouldn't fit in the enclosure, it worked. Uh, I was nervous. I framed a lot. I framed and framed and framed, but it worked out. They must be near you. 22 tomorrow? Minus 22.
I'm
Oh,
hoping
no.
that's with wind chill and not real temperature, because
No.
we've
Yeah,
been
minus
I've been
20.
there. We've been there with the real temperature that cold, and that's no joke. I mean, the wind chill is just as bad, but it isn't as terrible. But yeah, I was I get to stay home tomorrow. Actually, Tuesday too, if I want. I was kind of poking fun at my wife. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. It's going to be mid-20s below zero for wind chill. So have fun.
Mm. Yeah, Mark says the same thing you did. And it's kind of like if you just wanted to engrave a logo on something that you turned on the lathe or whatever, it'd be good for that. But I would concur with that. Minus 22 just above the border. I'm guessing he's not speaking of the Mexican border. He must be talking about the Canadian border.
Well,
How
I,
soon? How
they
soon
have
till
had
I
some of
see
those
text
cold snaps.
in my window? I don't know what that means.
I think he means that.
Oh. The messages, I don't know how if they're delayed on y'all's end or not, guys. But we put them up there as soon as we see them. So, but anybody's got any? Like I said, I'm bouncing between Facebook, just about Minnesota. Oh, Romark, laser engraving plastic. Steve, have you?
I have not on any of the diodes. I think I had some sample stuff that I messed around with on the CO2 years ago. Um, so, that's my 60-watt machine. I trying to remember what I was ending up at power. It wasn't that great, but there again, you gotta factor that the different wavelength is going to treat a little bit different on various plastics and such. So can't really give you any help on whether a 10-watt diode is strong enough for that or not.
Yeah. No, I think he was talking about Canada, Mark. I haven't. Watched a lot
Nope,
of
haven't
videos.
haven't messed up. I haven't messed with the IR head either. So
I've watched a lot of videos, but from what I've seen, the output's very, very low and it's very, very slow. So anything of any significant size would take a long time. That was my take from the videos that I watched, even the X Tool reveal video. That's kind of your wheelhouse, isn't it?
well, I haven't had any hands-on work with them, but I have looked at their information. I've watched a few videos on it, and most of them from some of the respectable people are positive on them. I think you could definitely put it right up there with, the X Tool 20-watt, and probably the Atom Stack as well. The one I'm also interested in, and Rich from Louisiana Hobby Guy has been talking about this new Rolly laser that's supposed to be launching this week. And I think that's going to be another one to keep eyes on, because that seems to have a lot of the integrated features people want. I think it's got good cable management. It's got a pretty good frame, has a lot of options to it. So, that'd be another one to throw in the mix with that. But yeah, I don't have firsthand experience with it. So
Yeah, the Mark says he has the IR head on the X Tool, but like we said, it's 2 watts, so it's not going to be too powerful. Which isn't it? It's infrared, right? So it's a different wavelength altogether than even a CO2, right? Am I correct on that? It's a different wavelength than CO2 or diode. Okay, making sure. Uh, Somebody's asking Atom Stack versus Aether. And like I said, I know Steve can voice his opinion on the Atom Stack, though.
Yeah, and Brian, yeah, you did reach out to me, and I hopefully gave you some information to think about that. Without having hands on the Aether, however you say that, I can't comment completely on it, but I think both of them will be pretty close as far as whether you can find a good deal on it, as shipping times, any accessories they might be willing to throw in at the time. And that's one of the things with any of these diodes. It seems like you kind of want to set your parameters and your price point, and when those things meet, jump in and buy, because if you're waiting for the best deal, something else is always going to be coming around a corner. There's going to be another sale and such. But I don't. The caveat is I don't have a hands-on with it, the Aether, but I think you'd be well served by either one of them.
Somebody's wanting your material list too.
Yeah, so I don't have a full-fledged out material list for the Atom Stack. I have some items. I do a lot of mine is with natural materials, a lot of woods and such. I haven't played a lot with the settings for engraving metal. I've done some with the glass as well. But there's a video I put out on the Atom Stack X20 or the A20, and that has some of the information. I usually try to list the settings I end up using, but then I also have a video that really talks through using your test grids and doing it in your own environment, because the type of wood you use is going to have a huge effect on it. The humidity, the temperature, a lot of those things will change those parameters. So you can get settings from other people, but it's still only going to be a rough guess baseline to get you close. I still strongly recommend people use that material test tool within Lightburn to do that. So
yeah, and I would echo that. Now with the 20 watts, I will say that my go-to for a starting point, if I don't want to run a test grid for both my ComGrow and my X-Tool 20 watt, wood typically 100 and 100, it works. Now it may not be as dark or it may not be as deep as you want, but you can engrave most woods I have found with a 20 watt if you run 100 millimeters per second at 100% output. Now, if you're looking for a specific look, you may have to go up or down from there, focus or unfocus. I mean, there's a lot of variables, like Steve said, with different materials. How clean your laser is actually affects it. So there's just a lot of different variables.
So, like for example, this is my cut sheet from the Atom Stack A20. So you can see the power on the bottom, the speed on the side, and this is for a 1/4 inch. This random 1/4 inch, I think this is some Home Depot 1/4 inch material. And then I ran it on the slate tile as well to try to get, my settings there. So these are things you want to run on every different material. So here's 1/8 inch, and you can see here I was cutting at 530 millimeters a minute at 100% power, was cutting through the 1/8. And you might not want to run it that hot all the time, but these are the kind of things that I try to run in every single laser. And like this, I'll keep these. I've got a kind of a bag with the manual and some of the miscellaneous supplies in there, and I can reference that. And then as you build that out, you can also get those into your libraries in Lightburn as well, your material libraries.
Yeah, I haven't started using that yet. I still use my little notepad on my desktop. I just created a notepad on my desktop, and I type them in there if it's something that I need to remember, some kind of odd material. I'm trying to get caught back up. Yeah, I think X Tool they have don't they have a 20 watt like their estimated power output thing on their
Uh,
website?
yeah, I believe so. And then Louisiana Hobby Guy has some forums where he tends to put some kind of generic 5, 10, and I think 20 watt rough material libraries for, and I think he calls them out by specific lasers that he's tested. So there are some resources out there
Yeah,
to get you close, but end of the day, it's great to find a test card. And like Mark mentioned, he uses one from Otto's Danger Den um, that has some different options as well. Um, the Lightburn one is basic. It gives you speed and power, but there are others that will give you a little more information, a little more detail, and different types of cuts. Because even on the Lightburn one, where these are all just squares, that's great. But a circle and a square, or a circle with a notch in it, may cut out different, and so you might want to run extra tests because you might be thinking that, oh, I can run it at this high speed, and then you run into different shapes, and it's actually giving you different results. So
but, I'm trying to read them all. There's a bunch of them popping up. Been waiting for the Acer V35. Is that supposed to be the 35? Is that a 35 watt or is that just a model number they
yep,
called it?
yeah, no, they've got different power ones on it.
Hmm.
Yeah, the Chinese New Year really kind of puts a hamper on things here at the beginning of the year, and depending on the company, they fully shut down or they partially shut down, and so getting communication and getting shipping from them is a little tricky. So,
Yeah, apparently
um,
that lasts for a little while.
so here's a question: when using the test grid and Lightburn, is there a way to move the grid to your material? Yes. Um, let me see if I can. Let me see if I can do this. So I'm going to share screen,
All
and
right,
we
if
will bring
Steve
up
messes this up, he's driving now.
right. All right. Let me see if I can grab the right screen. If it'll find it. Mm-hmm. Of course, it doesn't want to see my Lightburn window.
Yeah, you got to select.
There we go.
If they say.
I think I got it. All right. So when you come to a material test, you have a variety of options here. So here is where you're going to set up your min and max speed, the number of rows, and then the size of the square. And then over here, you're going to set your power. So here it gives you a preview of their default of what it's looking at. Now, as far as for positioning it, you got your Y center and your X center. Here's where you can adjust where in your grid it's going to print. So if you wanted to bump this down to your lower right corner, you might want to go at 25 and 25. So it's just off the corner. And then that should then bring it down into this lower left corner, assuming that your origin is down here. So that's how you can move it within the screen rather than moving your material to wherever it drops it, which is usually right in the center of your specific machine. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit on getting that positioned.
Yeah, a
So,
little tip though. If you change the number of squares, of course, you're going to change the size of the engrave. So leave yourself extra room if you plan on adding squares. Because sometimes I'll do like a 20 by 20. Sometimes I only do a 5 by 5. And then, so make sure you leave yourself plenty of room. If you do try to put that in a corner, you'll be hitting the rails. But I usually just hit frame, and wherever it frames, I drop a piece of material under it. That's the easy way.
so Michael's Fabware is wondering if I run multiply passes. I do sometimes, especially if it's thicker material and I want to run it at a higher speed, but multiple passes. You can actually set that up for however many passes you want it to run in those squares as well. So that is an option. I don't So my baseline is usually always just starting with 1/8" Baltic birch. So it's usually single pass tests initially, and most 10 watt lasers are going to get through that. On some 5 watts, I've switched back to doing 2 passes at the same speed. So definitely an option you can use, though.
Somebody's asking about if the RA2 will work with the Mon port. I think it is possible, but I think you're going to have an adapter cable because I do know that X Tools, rotaries, and some of the Diwalis and the other ones, their rotaries, the plugs are wired differently. And so there's probably going to be an adapter cable needed for that.
So yeah, that's true. It's your typical NEMA 13 or NEMA 23 stepper, and NEMA 17 or 23 stepper that is on here, and that's typical of most your rotaries, even on a larger laser. So it's got the 4 pins. So if you were able to make an adapter from this pin out to the stepper motor, in theory, yes, you could, and then you just have to dial in the software for your steps per rotation and such that the controller is sending to it. So, but by default, I don't know of anyone that makes an adapter.
The Comgrow one came with a bunch.
Show you this again, there, Clack. I know how much you'd like to have one.
Yeah. I'm gonna eventually bite the bullet, but I've heard Adam Stack just released one, so there that is.
Ortur did, and it's cheaper.
Ortur, I mean, yeah,
Yep.
Ortur, and see the Ortur's actually got the switch, which I like, but I've got a switch that a guy sent me, but I haven't taken mine out of the enclosure to do anything, so I haven't put it on there yet.
It also has this head kind of swivels it, so you can rotate it this way. Whereas this one, I got to unbolt it. Switch. God, I keep getting out of frame. Sorry. This swivels, so it flips around, which is nice because if you've got an object that's going to swing lower than this plate, you actually turn this around, and then it can hang off the end, and you'll elevate this, and that's how you can have it rotate. Whereas the Ortur, it just has kind of a clamp. You rotate it, and then you go with it. So that's kind of another nice feature as well that I see on there. So
Dave's asking about the 20 watt on the 10, and whoever said that he's going to need a different power supply, you're correct. Do you have the add-on 20 watt X tool, Steve? Or?
I have the add-on 20 watt for the non-pro, and it comes with a separate power supply for that. As far as the pro version, I'm not sure as far as if the power supplies are different between those. So
I wouldn't think it would be. I would think you would still have to upgrade the power supply, but could be wrong.
Depends on how much overhead they gave with it.
Yeah. So I guess he's talking about the R1. That must be the rotary, the Adam Stack rotary.
Yeah.
That I do not know. The only rotary that I've ever bought that came with more than the user's cable was the Diwali and the Comgrow. Both of them came with like 3 or 4 different cables. I've got a whole box full of rotary cables over there.
The new Ortur rotary and that Adam Stack one are similar. The Ortur one is like $230, but I've seen some deals on some places that maybe get it below $200. The Adam Stack one is pre-selling for $250. So definitely more options coming out, which is good because competition usually drives either innovation or price wars. So good to see it.
Yeah, I've actually been contemplating making me a big machine. I haven't sold myself completely on it yet, but I am strongly considering it. Steve's done got me. Steve's got a machine with the long axis now. And here I am sitting over here with my little 400 by 400s.
Yeah, I'm gonna upgrade the Sculpt Fun one of these days. They actually offer the double expansion where you can go like 950 by 950 ish millimeter, and I don't know that I would ever do that. That's a lot of area that you're probably going to use a minimal part of the time, and if you're using something that big, well, I don't know. It's probably not for me, but I can see the longer one. I was actually just talking with my dad today about it because both of us. He got me into model airplanes years ago and building kits and such, and oftentimes you're using sheets of balsa that are 24, 36 inches long to cut out your parts, and so having that length is really nice. It's really nice to have that and not have to break up your parts or try to do the tiling method or the cut and print. Sorry.
Yeah, Dave's saying that it comes with a power supply, but he's worried about the motherboard can handle the 20 watt. And I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing the fact that when you go to update a D1 Pro, it doesn't ask whether you're running the 20 or a 10 watt. They probably use the same motherboard, I would imagine. And the only difference could possibly be that the workload of the power supply needs to be upgraded. But now you would, if that's what, I mean, I would double check with X-Tool, but I mean, wouldn't you agree, Steve? If it was a different motherboard, it would seem it would be a different firmware.
The only one that I'm aware of that requires a different motherboard is the new 40 watt that's coming out. And that one, they do provide a board and a different gantry rail with. So I think the 5, 10, and 20 use the same board, but it's the module that consumes the extra power. So I think that that you should be okay with that. So, Balloon Man is asking, what are some stores where I can get some 1/8 BB? So if you have a good hardwood dealer in your area, I would ask them. Not necessarily your Home Depots, Lowe's, and such, although they do stock Baltic birch at times. It's sometimes more expensive. If you reach out to any hardwood dealers or maybe cabinetry supply places, they can sometimes get it too. Otherwise, online, there are places like Woodworker Source. They ship Baltic birch. Rockler stores, if you have any of those in your area, or Woodcrafts, they have them as well. But I've had the best luck going and finding a real lumber supplier in my area. And or if you're big enough and you do enough business, you can get registered with the hardwood distributors. And, when I was doing my model airplane stands and such, I was ordering enough plywood at the time that I did get set up with a place out of Iowa that for $15, they would put my order on a truck and deliver it to my shop. And they made trips up to my area once a week. So do a little looking around. Of course, that was in 5 foot by 5 foot sheets. You'd have to break it down. But I didn't have that problem. I've got a nice table saw and such. So definitely look around. Like I say, even talking to some of your cabinet maker shops in the area, sometimes they'll either have scraps and or would be happy to sell you some of theirs or add on to theirs, assuming they have a good supply of it, just to help their ordering in their bulk as well. So I don't know about you, but that's, if you're looking for true Baltic birch, that's where I've had luck.
I've never used Baltic birch, so you're the expert on that. Oh, if you're trying to engrave clear acrylic, my advice is it doesn't work real well with the diodes. You can do it if you coat it, and I'd have to look and see what my settings are. Let me see if I can access them from here, but I think I frosted it before. I frost glass a lot, but I can't get the consistent results that I like with clear acrylic on the diode, so I just quit trying. It just doesn't do it. Now, get your hands on the CO2. It does a great job, but hang on, I'm going to step over here and look at my other machine. I don't even know. I can't find the reference over here, but let me see if I've got any data for it. No, that's what I suspected. I have no data for clear acrylic with the 20 watt. Oh, so I didn't think I'd tried it. I quit trying that with the 10.
Yeah, and this Tim here, you kind of hit on my issue with some of the stuff you get at the big box stores is it is very hit or miss, and it's you get some good sheets, but then you can also just get some bad sheets, and also a lot of that stuff, while they call it furniture grade, it tends to have more. I call it like the putty filler. You'll see those gaps, whereas true cabinet grade plywood, instead of filling out or trying to fill in the plywood with like a putty or a mixture, they'll actually cut out. Usually, it's like a football shape, and then they'll laminate in an actual replacement piece of wood. So yeah, there's some glue there and there's a pocket there, but it's not that weird putty hardwood stuff that you kind of run into. So
Yeah. Oh, somebody's asking this question, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, and I'll make sure you agree. But my answer would be no, unless you're saving files to the card and accessing it through an app. Because I don't think the D1s really don't use the card for anything, but like Swap Space does it.
Uh, yeah, no, unless you're, like you say, if you're storing a lot of files on there that you're going to access like through the app or so, I wouldn't really worry about that. I mean, I honestly don't use it other than, well, I guess on the D1, yeah, I don't even use it. I was going to say some of the machines require you to upgrade the firmware through the card, but the D1 doesn't. Um, yeah, I just leave whatever they
Now,
send within there and roll with it.
yeah, yeah. Now, some of the other machines that have the like interface where you can, pick out a design and launch it from there. Then, if you filled up the card, maybe put a bigger one in there. But to be honest with you, uh, burn files are kind of like Word document files. You'd have to have a really complex burn for it to take up a lot of space. So, yeah, Mark, Mark's saying that white and yellow are not good for diodes. And I agree. Well, they're rolling. Yes, you can try the black tempera paint. I've tried black tempera. I've tried chalkboard paint. I've tried regular paint. I can't get I can't get etched acrylic to look good with a diode. It gets too hot and it just turns into a melted mess, in my opinion. Uh, but I gave up. I mean, feel free to try, but I gave up because it got frustrating. Yeah, and it will pop. You see any more comments there that I'm missing?
Well, I'm curious. Rob, okay, there you did answer. I was wondering. He said he got a CNC, so 3018 prop. I'm not familiar with that one, but CNC is a fun whole new world to play with. And yeah, when you get into larger and or deeper items, it can make a big difference. It's a lot easier to cut through half-inch, three-quarter-inch plywood with a CNC router than a laser, but you also trade off the sharpness of your corners and the fine detail. But
Somebody asked me if the shop was messy, if that was why I was using a virtual background. No, truth of the matter, I got new toys on this computer, and I'm just playing with toys, guys. I thought that was a cool picture of a sawmill. Uh,
I'm always sus of people with shops that are too clean.
Now, I will tell you this. My buddy, I've been working on that camper for the past 2 days, and we brought those cabinets in here and destroyed them and put them back together. And I swear I had about a half inch of sawdust on the floor with my sawdust collection system. And I told him yesterday afternoon when we got back from the hardware store, I'm like, dude, we got to stop and clean because I can't. My OCD is just, I can't handle it. So we cleaned yesterday, like mid project.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, I mean there's shops that are obviously used and worked in, and then they get cluttered, and you want to clean up because it's always a lot easier to start a new project when you're working with a clean shop. But some of them that look way too clean, like studio clean, you're kind of like, do you really
yeah,
make anything?
yeah, yeah. Well, I see that a lot on Facebook or YouTube. I'm gonna be honest with you. I tell my wife all the time, I'm like, what do these guys do? Do they have like a maid service that comes through? Because I'm too busy to be. I mean, I can't. I'm too busy to be doing all that. Now, every now and then, my wife will come out here and she'll be like, "Hey, this is looking messy," and so she'll pick up a broom or grab the shop vac or whatever and help out. But for the most part, I've got to stop building stuff to clean, and I'd rather be building than cleaning. But at the same time, I can't stand it when it gets junky. I have a 30/30 loan meal for about a year. Yeah, guys, y'all talking about CNCs? I'm waiting on Steve to drop ship me one, but he hadn't done it yet. If he does, I'll have one in the shop here. But I don't have room to house one, so I'm just having to live vicariously through Steve until I can get a bigger shop and just watch his machine work and just dream of the day that I can get one. What do you say, Jeff, about that? Is the plan of the business? I missed the conversation somewhere.
He said, "You see my shop, you'll find out all I make is a mess."
Yeah. Now, I would agree. I would agree with Mark on that one. Yeah, guys. I mean, the dust. I don't know if you can see it. I did take the air hose and blow all the dust out earlier and turn the fans on to try to get it out of here because there's like it almost looks like Steve's house where it's snowed, but it's dust that gets on everything. Because we sanded a lot of pine in here this week.
Launders money, yeah. Yeah, I'd
You
love
know
to do this. So yeah, I've got the Infinity Woodworker, or actually it's the Journeyman. It's a great machine, and they did just announce their new Elite model. It's got actual servo steppers and master controller and a better, a lot more control. I'm used to my other machines that actually run off Mach 3, so using the included 150 has been a bit of a step down, but the machine itself is really great. So I do need to get out there and do more content work with it, but it's cold out there right now, so it's hard to get motivated to.
Well,
I could warm up the
I'm
shop,
going to
but it costs
expect
me
you.
a pretty
I'm
penny.
going to Yeah, I'm going to expect some training videos in the spring so I can get ready for mine when it gets here. I want to see because my only thing with the CNC is it seems like you'd have to change bits like mid job. Like it would have to do a cut and then you wait on you to change the bit before it can go back and finish the job. So I
Well,
want to see how that works.
it's all about money. You can get an automatic tool changer.
Oh,
It's
well,
all there
yeah.
for you.
Drop ship me one of it. Send one of those with it when you send me a
Well,
machine.
yeah, I'll get one of those first. No, it's not terrible having to change bits, especially if you've got a probing block to reset your Z. But yeah, it's a little more to worry about. So
Yeah. Do you guys worry about the humidity? Steve, do you even have humidity up there?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, we've got 10,000 lakes and more rivers, and it's humidity is ridiculous up here in the summer. So yeah, so you got to be worried about the dew point and the temperature, and humidity can add to that because condensation on your tube can cause some serious issues. So if you're running your water chiller too cold and that water that the laser starts heating up and your water starts condensating on there, you can start having some problems with that. So definitely humidity can be an issue. Besides just it's general bad for equipment in general, your material in general. So yeah, it's nice when you can have a little bit more climate control. Like I say, my shop's pretty well insulated, so it's there's kind of 4 months out of the year I don't like being in the shop, and that's usually here in January, February. It's just stupid cold, and then also you get into late June to early August. It's hot, it's humid, and so I'm spending a lot more energy trying to keep it climate controlled in that shop. So those are the months I kind of try not to do as much out there. But yeah, we get some crazy humidity swings and temperature swings up here. So definitely something to be worried about.
Yeah, I didn't know if like up there if the humidity got too high, if it just like fell out of the air in the form of snow or ice or what, you know. But I guess in the summertime, maybe y'all do get above freezing in the summer, right?
Yeah, well, there, yeah,
All I've
we
seen,
can have
all
sweet.
I've seen it is snow. Every picture you sent me is nothing but snow and ice.
Well, I will send
Oh
you some in July where it's hot, humid, and sticky, and yeah, the
well,
sky isn't blue because there's too much humidity.
I challenge you to a day of sawmilling in, let's say, June or August in Alabama. See how long you last. Bring
I got
lots
friends
of.
up here with sawmills too, so
I'm telling you, and my Alabama guys can vouch for me. The heat down here is crazy. I've been other places in the summer, and it's different. We're closer to the equator. I guess that's the whole thing.
so
But
so
yeah,
Brian, most normal people up here would agree with you. And I rebuilt our garage, like I said, about 14 years ago, with the idea we could park our cars in there and I'd have a little workshop space. But since then, I've acquired too many machines, and I've got this agreement with my wife that I'll make sure that her car is scraped and clear so she can drive off in the morning, and I get the garage as a shop. So it's been a few years since it's seen any vehicles.
that's why you're always out there moving snow to keep from getting kicked out of your shop.
But, well, yeah, that's a little bit about it. Yeah.
Oh, well, I am hoping to one day build me a little bit bigger building. It'll probably be a while. Uh, but when I retire, I'm going to need more toys. And I've done told my wife when I retire, I'm going to need more toys. And with more toys, I'm going to need more space. So that's my plan. Steve might can enlighten you on that one.
Yeah. So, do I have any down here? Um, yeah. What I have run in mine is you want to get the RV antifreeze that's meant for the actual water system. So it's non-toxic. It's less corrosive than the other chemicals and such that are in regular antifreeze. And you can run it full strength, but I've diluted it 50% with not denatured alcohol, uh, distilled water. But the caveat that I'm saying for that is also I have it in a closed system with the chiller, and I also have a fairly climate controlled shop. My shop has gotten close to 32 degrees a couple times when I haven't gotten out there to check the heaters in time, but I've never actually pushed it to where the temperature inside the shop was below freezing for that. So you do want to kind of check your water, make sure it's got some. I would also run just a little bit of anti-algae in there, and or just a couple drops of bleach just to kind of keep things from growing in there. And then it is good practice to swap out your water, fairly regularly. I would say no more than every 6 months, um, depending on your environment and how much you're using it and such. But yeah, that's what I've used. Get a lot of different opinions on that, but I've had good luck with it on a number of years on my 60-watt Chinese laser. So
Yep. Somebody said last week in their shop it was 18
ooh,
degrees.
I hope that
Yeah.
was Celsius.
Yeah, that sounds like one of those work from the couch days, or you know, catching up on emails or bookkeeping. That's what I do, guys. When it's really really cold, a lot of times I'll stay in the house to catch up on bookkeeping or sending out invoices or designing, because I don't do well with cold weather. And I'm a little concerned that this summer is going to get a little rough out here. But I've got a brother-in-law that does air conditioning, and I am seriously considering uh, trying to talk him into coming over here and hooking me up one of those little mini splits or something just to take the edge off. Because last year I've got a lot better computers and camera equipment now, and I don't want to be dripping salt filled sweat all over everything. So I'm probably going to wind up having to bite the bullet for that. Are they talking? You talking to me,
Um,
Brian, or are you talking to Steve? Steve's
on
part polar bear.
He knows what cold is for me up here. He's just over in Wisconsin.
Maybe he's talking to me.
But
Uh, I don't
yeah,
like it
isn't
when
it
it gets
like
down below the 30s, but if it gets below 32, I don't like it. If it gets down in the teens, I'm near a fire somewhere. Uh, but now you got to understand too, now guys, I stay outside a lot, so like I have sawmilled. You have to. It has to be above freezing for me to run my sawmill because I use water as lubrication in the sawmill, and I don't want to spend the money on antifreeze. And I don't want antifreeze put into my wood that I'm cutting because it'll stain it. So, but I have run the sawmill at like 40 degrees, 35 degrees. But I try to stay in the shop. It's too cold.
so? Where is it? Here. Did I get that one? Blue Man, am I damaging my engraver by leaving it in the tube? Are you talking about the water and the RV antifreeze type stuff, or what exactly is that? Yeah, a lot of talk about mini splits. Those are a pretty good unit up here. I don't know about how well they will dehumidify a space or add humidity to a space, but as far as adding heat and AC, they're one of the most efficient ways doing it, or off electricity anyway. So
Well, the shack isn't exactly completely sealed, and that's one thing I've got to work on before I go to, spending money on an electric bill to try to stay cool. I've got to do some
mm,
insulating, and that's going to be one of those, hopefully a spring project, because I don't want to be up there around the 10. Because in the summertime, when the sun is overhead, I can literally on the back of my neck feel the heat coming off of that 10 on the roof. So I'm going to end up having to put some insulation up there and probably mill me some lumber and go ahead and make a decent roof to get me by for the next couple of years until I can build something different. But I've got to have something a little. This used to be where I parked my tractor. Like literally, my tractor used to sit right where I'm sitting now, and it was dirt. It was just a pole barn. And when COVID hit, that's when all that changed. I started I started having more off time and did a lot more work around here. Says they want to add humidity. I figured they wouldn't do that, which I don't really want anything adding humidity. I want it to. I would like for my wood that I keep in here to be able to stay at less than 11% moisture content because that's generally where my anything in this room is usually going to fall around 11%. So,
yeah, so that's we get those humidity swings up here, and so like in our house, we actually have to add humidity in the winter, um, and try to remove it in the summer. So it's fun. The
yeah,
cat
it
the
stays
cat
pretty
is not
constant
happy
here.
when you pet it and it's getting static shock just from that. So the air's too dry.
Yes, yeah, it stays pretty consistent here. I have had it get really dry inside the house, and the hardwood floors will kind of tell on it because they you can see the wood will actually move a little bit. You'll have like tiny hairline gaps occasionally in the hardwood if it gets too dry.
Yeah, no, our house was built back in the late 20s, and so well, I should say 1920s because we're now in the 2020s, but it's got a lot of hardwood doors in it, and you can tell the gaps change from summer to
Mm-hmm.
winter. So
All right. Hitting one isn't too good. Yeah, if it's good until 0 degrees, there should be very few times. Well, I could say probably the past 20 years we haven't really been around zero much here. I think we this last little Arctic blast we were down to like 6 or 7. So if it'll stay with me until 0, if it's below 0, that's what I'm gonna be doing bookkeeping, sending out invoices, working in Fusion 360, something that I can stay in the house and do more than likely, unless it goes on for a long time. Uh, yeah, see, Jack, me and you, we're right here, guy. Because if it's below 0, I am staying somewhere near a fire. Steve can have all that sub-zero temperatures up there.
We've been lucky this winter. I mean, our January was fairly warm compared to others. I mean, like I said, it rained a couple times up here. But yeah, I generally will say yes, but you get some of those long streaks where it's that cold. I mean, obviously, I got to go to work some days too, but there are days where I'm just like, all right, I'm bundling up, I'm going out because I need some sunshine, I need some of that vitamin D and such. So, um, yeah. That being said, I cannot fathom like Christmas time without snow. It would just be weird to me. So, you know,
Well, let me tell you this. I am 47 years old, and I have never seen snow on the ground at Christmas. Matter of fact, we haven't had any snow so far. Yeah, so far this year, we had little flurries about 11 o'clock one night, and you could see the snow until it landed on something, and then it just disappears. Uh, but that is the extent of the snow we've had. So it's very rare. We get 2 inches of snow here, and nobody's out but the rednecks with the 4-wheel drive, big jacked up tires and stuff. I don't have a big jacked up tires anymore. I'm one of those rednecks that don't have it, but yeah, you let it get 2 inches of snow around here, and there you can't find a loaf of bread or a gallon of milk anywhere. Like it'll all be sold out. Yeah, that guy's 52 and said he's only seen it one time in Houston. So never had a
yeah,
white
Blue Man.
Christmas. In South
Uh,
Carolina, I would think South Carolina would get some. Hmm.
so yeah, the concern is with some of the antifreezes, the additives in there can actually be conductive, and so that's why using the RV antifreeze that's meant for your actual water tanks, they're safe for consumption and such. That's usually what's recommended best because they have a lower conductivity rate as such. So, um, I mean, it's probably not causing damage just sitting in there, but if you get a chance to change out your water, swap it out with that, or at least a mixture of that and your distilled water, I think it'd be safer in the long run just to prevent any possible um, issues with the conductivity of that. So
Yeah, I think the corrosion would probably be the most of the tube and the tubing. It's the tube itself and the tubing is all glass and plastic. But I think like with pumps or with chillers, especially, you definitely wouldn't want to put anything corrosive in there because those chillers aren't cheap. And somewhere in there, there's going to be a propeller that could possibly be metal and metal shaft and bearings and that kind of thing. But yeah, that wouldn't be good. All right, chiller, chiller and the algicide. The bread phenomenon. Yeah, see, Joseph knows what I'm talking about.
bread.
Yeah, I'm serious, dude. You can we have, and you can look him up on YouTube or Facebook or whatever. There's a meteorologist in Alabama. He's out of Birmingham. His name is James Spann. If the words snow, ice storm, or power outages ever comes out of his mouth, you had better be on your way to the store if you want milk, bread, or eggs, because you're not going to find them if you wait 2 or 3 hours. Because everybody in the state loads up and they go to the store and they buy bread and milk and eggs. I don't know. I don't know why those three things. I mean, I would.
See,
It's crazy, man.
yeah, up here it's they run and they restock on their beer and their wine and such like that.
Yeah. See, look there. He feels my pain. I don't know where he's from, but that's the way it works here.
The problem
Okay, there you
here's the
go,
problem
Steve.
though. Okay, you get snow, and now you're gonna have power outages. So now you got all these perishables that are they're gonna
That's
go
what I
bad.
said. I mean, I guess but you got to think about it this way though, Steve. If it's snowing outside and there's ice, you just set your milk outside.
Well,
but you have to bring
yeah,
it in to
but you
thaw it
also
out.
said it's gonna melt right away. Up here, we got months to pull that stuff in. I mean, there are people who literally they got their porch as their secondary fridge and freezer in the winter time because it just stays cold enough.
Yeah.
So, but
Clover, South Carolina. So I guess maybe that's just a southern thing. But seriously, man, it's milk and bread just gone. And the very next time they mention snow, I'm going to go and I'm going to do a live from the grocery store and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'm telling you, I'm going to do it. So if
so
you hear that
yeah,
they're
Penny.
forecasting snow for Alabama, there will be a live from the Walmart Supercenter or from the Piggly Wiggly or something.
So Penny, yeah, CO2 lasers, they are a little more expensive, and that is one of the caveats I tell people is that there is more maintenance with them. So there's more things that need to be aligned and maintained because you got your mirror alignment, you got your tube and your chiller. You got to be worrying about any air bubbles and such in that. So there is more to it, but with that, you get different focal length opportunities with different lenses. You have the power to work with glass and acrylics without binders and such. And so there are definitely some advantages to it. And plus, if you're doing a lot of production stuff, it's going to be faster than your diodes. But yeah, it is the trade-off is there's more setup and maintenance with them to get them running and tuned up right. So it's not terrible, but yeah, it does add to it.
Uh, I saw half the question. I think he hit enter before he meant to, but apparently Balloon Man's having troubles adjusting his X and Y axis. Said he's still getting circles that ain't round, which is going to be belts or either the connecting rod, one of the two. Uh, Balloon Man, I've got a. Do you have a video on that, Steve? You have one?
On calibrating them or what?
Is it an X tool or what is it? First of all, what kind of machine are you talking about there, Balloon Man 67? Well, Balloon Man 67, if it's a X tool, whether it's a D1 Pro or non-Pro, I have a video that I did on assembling the X tool D1 Pro. The process for the D1 Pro and the D1 Standard are both the same. And if you'll watch that video, you can kind of skip through there until I get to the parts where I put the belts on and align the timing rod. That's what you need to do, and double check the tension. And you can do that with the 45 tilt, or you can the piano, whichever's more suitable for you. I usually do the 45 tilt and adjust it until the machine will barely move. Yeah, if the step count's wrong, that would be an issue too. But I would
The other
assume
thing
if
is
it's an X tool, surely they'd mess with it.
the other thing too is if the gantry is skewed, it needs to make sure you need to make sure your frame is square, and then that your gantry is square to the frame as well. So sometimes those get off by just a slight angle, and then it's you're fighting geometry then. So a few different things to check on that.
Yeah, but usually that'll tell on itself because you'll have a tight spot somewhere as it's moving. From my experience,
Possibly,
because I've had that happen
depending on
with
how
one
loose things
machine
are.
that I
Yeah.
put together. I think it was the LM3. I put it together, and it had a tight spot at like a quarter of the way up, and I wound up what it was it just didn't get squared. But yeah, like Tom said, check your step count too if you've been messing with the $ settings. Worst case scenario, if you think it's a setting, do what I do: dump that configuration file, re-add the machine, and that fixes it. You really mess things up, because sometimes when you add a rotary to like some of these other machines and you have to go in and change the step settings, for some reason I mess that up sometimes and just have to remove the machine and start over because I don't remember what it was set to before. In New Jersey, wait a minute, no having chickens. You can't have chickens in New Jersey? I'd be moving.
Probably
I'd
probably
move.
not in the city proper.
Well, that's one reason why I don't live in the city. That's why I don't live in the city. Yeah, distilled water typically you can get it at same place as the bottled water and all the fancy drinking water. But now it's usually going to be on the very bottom shelf because it's one of those things that they don't sell a whole lot of. Can't pump your own gas. Yeah, I went up there to. I went through New Jersey and seen that. Can't pump your own gas. Y'all need to move. All right,
So
Steve.
as far
What?
as keeping dust from collecting in your fan, it's probably going to be impossible to keep it all out of there. So having a good cleaning routine is good, but if you get too much smoke and debris that's accumulating in your if you have it in an enclosure and such, you might want to look at your air extraction and see if you can improve that any. So having plenty of air moving through there should help keep it down.
I second that because in essence, if the air inside your enclosure is really nasty, then naturally the fan is going to get really nasty really fast. So if you feel like your fan's getting too nasty too fast, then you may need to increase your exhaust to try to keep a little more fresh air in there to cut down on that debris going through the fan. But yeah, see, if nothing else, me and Steve have this exhaust thing figured out. That is funny, but you could drink it.
He was talking about just he could make his own, but I saw that comment here. What was it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you. I don't. Do people drink distilled water? Or they just use. I think they use it in recipes and stuff, right? Maybe.
Yeah, here you go. Said I'm unable to find it here. I could try making my own, but risk 10 years in prison. Yeah, I mean, you could distill your own, but I'd be surprised. Usually, I think most grocery stores, most larger WalMarts have it. Typically, I've usually been able to find it in grocery stores, but you know,
Well, you actually wouldn't go to jail if you're in Alabama because in Alabama you can actually distill ethanol at up to so many gallons a year. But you just can't have more than so many gallons a year on hand. So it's not illegal to have the equipment as long as you don't have more than I think it's is it 5 or 10 gallons a year. But nobody here keeps 5 or 10 gallons on hand.
yeah, you guys are on the catch and release program, right?
Yeah, you just make a batch and when you get low, make some more. It's ethanol, man. They sell it at the gas station.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, he's his XY issues with the 10 D1 Pro 20 watt. So
Pro 20 watt. Yeah, go watch that my assembly video on the X Tool Pro. If you go to my channel, I don't know if you know how to do this. Go to the videos or content, whichever it shows on your end, and just go up to the top and you can search. And any problem you have, mine and Steve's channel both, or if you're looking at a new product, if you go up to where our videos are and search in that search box, you can just search our channel and find a video that we did on that. So, and I have one of putting the X tool together, and it'll kind of show you what to watch for and how to do it. Now, you may have to partially disassemble your machine to do it correctly, but I would recommend that if you're having an issue with everything lining up. If you haven't messed with the software end of your machine, anyway.
So I'm going to say this depends. It's all about trying to make sure you've got air movement throughout your enclosure. So it obviously depending on also if you're cutting or engraving where the smoke's going to end up. So if you're doing a lot of cutting, the smoke is hopefully going you're cutting through, and a lot of the smoke is actually coming through your wasteboard or your honeycomb. Then you would actually maybe want to be able to pull it down from the bottom. If you're doing a lot of engraving, that smoke's going to come up. You might want to be pulling it up a little bit higher. Generally, though, I want to make sure that if the exhaust is in the back, that my inlet is up front and the air is moving across the surface to move things out. The idea is to not let it raise up, but move it across and to your exhaust, whether it's above or below it. So I don't think it's going to make a huge difference on the bottom right to the top back, depending on where your inlet is. You're probably best to have it just opposite of your inlet.
I got to do it. Sorry. And I know why they're asking. I saw Chad's video the other day, or yesterday. But no, I think that is a terribly bad idea. Coming from someone who is uh, is trained in hazmat and has been in multiple meth labs, that's a bad idea. That sounds like something some of these. It's a bad idea. For one, oxygen only it basically enhances fire in the atmospheric conditions. So if you have if you have just like a little ember and you introduce it into an oxygen rich environment, it's going to turn into a raging flame. So introducing oxygen into a cut on a laser, in my opinion, is going to result in a large flame out the back of the piece of material because it has to have that. It's going to have, in order to have fire, you're going to have some type of a medium to burn. And the woods, basically, you're going to have a flamethrower coming out the bottom of your grave, I believe. That's my opinion. Now, I'm sure if you watch that video, you'll find out, but that is my opinion. Do not try that, in my opinion. But yeah, apparently Chad's wanting to hook up oxygen to his new 40 watt or one of the X tools, and that just sounds like a terribly bad idea.
I've actually heard of people looking at adding CO2 to it instead.
See, I don't understand that either. CO2 would be more likely to put the flame out, which I guess would be a benefit because it'll smother the flame out. But yeah, you can take. I mean, it's easy. Just go Google, oxygen rich environment flame test and see what you think. But yeah, oxygen, and I mean, you can literally take let's say a cigarette or a incense and introduce it into an oxygen rich environment, and it will flame up. So that just seems like a bad idea. It may make for a fun video, but it seems like a bad idea to be standing there. But
so on the CFM, generally for the enclosures that we're building, your size, my size, I'm going with minimum of around like that 195, 200 is where that small fan goes, but I prefer to try to get it up closer to 300 CFM because unless you have just a straight shot from your enclosure right outside, any sort of bends and any length you have is going to put strain on how much that fan's actually able to pull through that. And so if it's a straight shot out, that probably works pretty well. But if you've got any length to it, you're going to want a little extra CFM because you're going to be losing it through all that length of pipe and through any bends you have on it.
Yeah, just like with anything else, there's variables that you got to consider. So there's really not a right answer for every scenario. Like Steve was saying, my duct run from inside my enclosure to outside the building, it's probably 3 foot. And I've got the 4-inch fan that I'm running works fine. But if you were piping it across your basement to a nearby window, it's going to change. So, but you need lots. You need plenty. Okay, let's see. Over to the plane. Yeah.
So I see this question a lot. What's your take on it?
I think it's hogwash. I think it was borrowed from CO2s. CO2s are glass. Heat makes glass brittle. Heat makes things break easier. I think that's just a carryover to diodes. Because if you look at the life expectancy of most, even the cheapest diodes, if you look at the life expectancy of a diode, it is way more than any one person is going to use that machine before they either just wear out the rest of the mechanical parts to it, or B, decide they want a new one. So I run mine at 100% all the time, and I promise you there's nobody in this group right now that has run an X-Tool D1 standard as much as I have in the past year and 2 or 3 months. And mine still cuts like the day I got it. So I think that's a I think that's a carryover from the CO2 days, and I think Steve can enlighten you more on that.
So yes, it's a carryover from a couple things, and even in the CO2 world, it's a carryover from uh, mismatched components being thrown together into cheap lasers. So, and that's true in some of the earlier diodes, is that they were overdriven and they were undercooled. And anytime you have that heat buildup with any electronics, it's going to have the chance to degrade its performance. The reality is with the diodes, it's really just on or off. It's running at 100% no matter what. It's just dependent on the length of the time it is. And so um, if you're restricting it, you're actually driving some of the other equipment harder. So it's really imperative on, did the manufacturer do their job in balancing out the diodes with the cooling system and with a maintenance schedule that actually makes sense. So this also is why you want to make sure you're keeping your equipment clean, that you're cleaning it out, you're disassembling the head enough to be able to clear out the fan, clean the lens, things like that. Same thing with CO2 lasers. Is there were a lot of manufacturers that would claim they're selling you a 60-watt laser when they're actually providing maybe a 50-watt tube with a 60-watt power supply. And if you run that power supply at 100%, you're overdriving the tube. If the CO2 manufacturer actually was to balance their system correctly and say 100% power is at, say, 21 milliamps, which is what the tube is rated at, then you're fine to run it at 100% power. That's its maximum power rating. As far as will that degrade it faster than running it at 60, 50%? Sure, at a slight amount, but I think what you're losing out is a lot of capability versus the time you're spending. So if you're a hobbyist, are you ever going to meet those hours that it's going to actually burn that out? Probably not. If you're running production, would you rather save a little time and have to swap that out maybe a few months earlier, but gain a lot of production capacity? I would probably go towards, yeah, I want to run it faster. I want to get my stuff out sooner, and I'll take the sacrifice on maybe having it, die 10, 15% sooner. But again, that's all imperative on the manufacturer doing their job in building it to spec correctly, providing the proper cooling, and then the user actually doing a good maintenance schedule on it. So,
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. If you've ever looked inside your CO2 or your diodes, they do have fans. I mean, there. Anytime you have electricity generating light, there's going to be some heat created somewhere, and so that's why they have the heat sinks that are inside underneath the fans of most all these diode lasers. Now, if you run it with at 100% and those heat sinks are clogged up with dirt and debris and stuff, then yeah, you're gonna run into problems because the components that make up microprocessors and chips, if they get too hot, they literally will crack, shatter like glass. So you do not want to get them too hot. But most of the machines are rated to cool themselves at 100% output as long as you allow them to have the airflow that they were designed to have. So that's like I said, good maintenance, in my opinion, is way better than trying to throttle them back. Steve's more the numbers guy. So there you go, Steve.
uh, so this is going to be a little bit dependent on your specific air assist setup. Typically on the cone type ones that you see on Xtool and ComGrow and a lot of CO2s, you'll hear people say anywhere from maybe 10% on the low end up to maybe 30% on the high end. On my CO2, I run around up to 20% at the actual throughput. Um, However, a friend of mine who's got the Niji 3 Max is having to run his up, and he said their manual actually states run it at 60 psi. But they also have a really small, I think it's like a 3 millimeter hose instead of more like a 6 1/4 inch that a lot of these others have. So, I think it's a bit dependent on your setup. And so some of that is going to be a little bit of trial and error if you can adjust it. But, I would start, 15 to 20% or 15 to 20 PSI is probably a pretty good starting point for most. But like I say, I have a friend who's got that Niji and said he had to crank it up to 60 to get decent results.
Yeah, there again, variables, the size of the hole on the air assist. I mean, there's a lot of variables that you got to take into consideration. My opinion, do a cut test, but instead of changing the power settings and the speed, just change the amount of air you use. That's what I did. That's how I dialed my D1 Pro into my shop air. Is I run a test grid. I'd put it to larger squares, and I would run it, and I would slowly adjust the regulator in until I got it to where I got the results that I wanted, and that's where I wound up staying with. So I recommend that. Just like you do a power speed test, set you up one, and just don't make the only variable be your air assist. And you ain't got to do a grid per se. You can just do small squares. Run one at such and such psi, then do another one beside it at another psi, another one beside it. And once you've done, 10 or 15 of them, look at them and see which one's got the cleanest cut, which one has less scorching, and which one is leaving less ash in the cut, and make your decision based upon that. That's my opinion. And for anybody that wasn't here earlier that's late, because I know we've ran over, Steve, by the way. I'm on overtime.
Yeah, no,
now.
I'm good.
But for anybody that wasn't in the group earlier, we did start a community Facebook group for y'all to share projects, share ideas, pose questions against each other in case me and Steve are, not available. Because a lot of times you guys are as big a resource to me and Steve as we are to you guys. So it's all about sharing information. It's all about learning new things and passing it on. So if that's something you're interested in, if you're on Facebook, go over and join the group. It's still in the infant phases of it. There's a little bit of I'm having to approve everybody. I'm going to work on making that a little more streamlined, assign some admins, that type of thing, so that me and Steve aren't holding all the responsibility with it. But if you haven't already, I just put the link in there again for you. Make some popcorn and sit back and listen. Well, don't burn the popcorn, Penny. I want to see if I can pop popcorn with a laser. Has anybody tried that? Does anybody know? Has anybody on YouTube tried to pop a kernel of popcorn with a laser?
I welcome you to try it.
I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it. I'm going to try. I'm going to go get me a bag of popcorn, and I'm going to sit down with my X tool. I'm going to figure out the exact settings that you need for a D1 to pop popcorn. Now, it's going to be a long process doing it one kernel at a time, but hey. Mm-hmm. And I do have, y'all be happy to know, because everybody asked, I have actually found myself some MDF, some 1/4-inch MDF. I've got a sheet of that over here now. And I also have what is it, birch? The birch plywood. It's not the Baltic birch, but the birch plywood that everybody says is really tough. So I'm gonna be doing some projects with that before long. But I may have started something. I may have to try the popcorn first. So
definitely go for the impractical over the practical.
I mean, I think it'd be good content. I mean, if anybody ever says, Steve, do you have settings for popcorn? You can be like, yeah, it's right here. Any other questions, guys? I mean, we have ran over. I don't have anywhere to be yet. I got to be in bed in a little while. But if anybody has any questions, feel free. I don't want to just sit here and keep dragging everybody out. So speak now.
Now, are you going to
Steve,
are you going to add any oil or coconut oil or butter? We need to know some of these things.
After it pops, maybe. We're not trying to destroy a machine. I don't have machines to destroy. But after it popped, yes, I'll probably. Now it'll probably be that squeeze butter.
I'm sure you've got plenty.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try that. I'm gonna do that. I may even do it live. Well,
Great.
first I'm gonna make sure I can actually do it before I make it go live. Because you
So
know, I
you're trying
mean,
to
you understand the mechanics of it is all you have to do is take that moisture that's inside the kernel. You have to get it hot enough to turn to steam, and then the pressure that the steam exerts on the shell of the kernel has to get enough to where the kernel pops, and then as it expels the inner part, it turns into popcorn. So it's really just science. I just need to heat water inside a kernel up to, I'm not sure what the temperature is, but I'll figure it out. But but yeah, line up the kernels. Now that'd be cool if I could line up like 30 of them and just do a line and it'd be like pop 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 pop. Yeah, that would be awesome. You watch, that's coming, dude. So smell like burnt popcorn in here for a month. But anyway, I don't want to keep everybody. It's getting late. It's still raining here. Hey, is my filter working where y'all can't hear the rain, Steve?
no, it hasn't been bad on my end anyway.
Okay. Watch this here. I'm gonna turn the filter off and see what it does.
Oh yeah,
Now can you
there's a
hear it?
difference.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm loving this new little add-on I got. All right. Y'all have a good one. Holding out
Yeah,
still.
great seeing everyone today, and go join the Facebook group. Great area to share and ask questions because hopefully other community members can help answer questions even if Clack and I can't get to it right away.
All right, Brian, little tip if you're starting to try this. Yes, I agree with you if the laser was in focus. But as we know, if a laser is out of focus, it generates more heat and does less penetration. So we're probably going to be cheating the focus up on that to do the popcorn. But yeah, somebody says my audio filter is excellent. Yeah, I started to do the live in the house, but my daughter was practicing something that was really loud. But yeah, cool. Glad the audio is working. I need like a soundproof room. But y'all have a good one. Go check the page out. I'm gonna still be working on that, so y'all bear with me. But if you got some cool things that Steve's inspired you to make, or if you've got a Ventari's workshop enclosure, take a picture of that thing, put it on there. I know I have some photos that I've had permission to share, so I'm going to add a few of those. I'm just going to try to go back and credit the folks that sent them to me because I do want you guys to be able to take credit for what you've learned and what you've been able to do with your lasers. And so I'm going to try to go back and look that up, credit those folks, and maybe throw those out there if they don't beat me to the punch. But yeah, let us know if this is, like I said, if y'all still liking this, apparently, because I think we had a little better turnout than usual. So I plan to keep it going as long as Lord's willing. Anything, Steve?
No. Just we'll see everybody online. We'll be sharing things on the page, be looking for things there. But also keep up with us on our other pages. Make sure you're subscribed to both channels. And looking forward to next week. It'll be February.
Yeah, we may have popcorn.